Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt like the person staring back at you doesn't match who you know you could be? Maybe on the outside everything seems fine. You smile when you're supposed to. You show up, you function. But deep down there's a quiet voice asking, is this really my life? Not in a dramatic way, not in chaos, but in stillness. In that subtle ache you feel at night when the world goes quiet. The truth, you were never meant to stay the same. You were designed to evolve, to break cycles, to outgrow the version of you that once felt safe, but now feels like a cage. This episode isn't about surface-level change. It's not about productivity hacks or fake motivation. It's about burning down the limits you didn't even know you were living under. It's about choosing yourself fully, unapologetically, and walking away from the version of you that was shaped by fear, by doubt, by survival. Because the life you want, it's not just waiting for you, it's waiting on you, waiting on the moment you decide. I'm done repeating, I'm ready to become. So if you're tired of watching your potential from the sidelines, if you're ready to break the cycle and start over, not from scratch, but from experience, this episode is for you. 14 steps, each one a shift, each one a challenge, each one a door back to yourself. Let's begin. 1. Destroy the limiting beliefs holding you back. There's a moment in life when you pause, not because you're tired, not because you're weak, but because something inside you whispers, this can't be all there is. And in that quiet space between one breath and the next, you realize you've been living under a weight you never truly questioned, a weight made not of circumstances, but of beliefs, quiet, invisible thoughts that shaped your choices, your reactions, your identity without ever asking for permission. And maybe that's where you are right now, stuck, confused, wanting to change, but held back by something you can't quite name. The truth is, you can't reinvent yourself without facing the stories you've been telling yourself. Those beliefs that whisper, I'm not good enough, it's too late, people like me don't get to have a better life. And here's the thing, most of those beliefs didn't even start with you. Maybe they came from a parent who projected their fears onto you. Maybe from a teacher who saw your struggle but not your potential. Maybe they came from a moment of failure that left a mark deeper than you ever admitted. And from there, your mind did what all minds do. It built a story around that pain. A story to keep you safe. A story that says, don't try again, don't risk it, don't hope too much. But the mind doesn't just tell stories. It repeats them, it rehearses them until they feel like facts. And once those beliefs settle in, they become filters. Everything you see about yourself, your strengths, your potential, even your future, is filtered through that lens. And if that lens is clouded by fear or shame or unworthiness, then your entire world becomes smaller, more limited, more closed off to possibility. That's why the first step in any real transformation is not action, it's awareness. You have to stop and ask, what do I believe about myself? And is it true, not just intellectually, but emotionally? Feel the words, it'll never be enough, I always mess things up, people always leave. Where did those beliefs come from? Who told you that? And when did you stop questioning it? The painful part, most of us never stop to ask. We accept these beliefs like furniture in a room we grew up in. We never chose them, but we learn to live around them. That ends today. Because reinvention doesn't happen around your limiting beliefs. It begins when you tear them down. And this isn't about fake affirmations or pretending everything's fine. It's about truth. honest, uncomfortable truth. Maybe you've failed before. Maybe you've been rejected, ignored, underestimated. That's real. But what's not real is the belief that those moments define your future. They don't. They never did. You are not your past. You are not the worst thing that ever happened to you. And you are not the voice in your head telling you to stay small. So how do you begin to dismantle those beliefs? You start by writing them down. All of them. Every thought that feels like a wall. I'm not smart enough. No one will ever love me. I don't deserve success. Write them. Say them out loud, and then challenge them. Ask, where did this come from? What is the evidence for it? And what has believing this cost me? You'll notice something powerful happens when you put those thoughts on paper. They lose their grip. They stop floating around in the shadows of your mind, and you can finally see them for what they are. Old echoes from a version of you that was doing the best they could with the pain they had. And once you've faced those beliefs, you replace them slowly, patiently, honestly, not with cheesy mantras, but with grounded truths like, I may not be where I want to be yet, but I am growing. I deserve to give myself another chance. What I've been through doesn't define what I can become. You begin speaking to yourself not like a critic, but like a mentor, like someone who actually wants to see you succeed. And every time that old belief tries to pull you back into fear, you pause and you choose again. You choose growth, you choose hope, you choose action. Because the greatest reinvention isn't about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you were before fear taught you to shrink. You have so much more in you than you realize, but you'll never access it as long as you keep playing by the rules fear gave you. So I'll ask you this: what belief are you ready to let go of? And what could your life become if you finally did? This is the moment you stop accepting old limits and start rewriting your story. 2. The courage to face your darkest fears. Fear is a strange companion. It rarely shouts, it whispers. And most of the time, it doesn't tell you don't do it. Instead, it asks questions. What if you fail? What if they laugh? What if you're not enough? And in those moments when you pause, when you hesitate, fear wins. But here's the hard truth. You cannot reinvent your life if you keep letting fear sit in the driver's seat. And I'm not talking about surface-level fears like public speaking or flying. I'm talking about the ones you don't even like admitting out loud. The fear of being judged. The fear of being alone. The fear of truly trying and still not being enough. The fear of actually succeeding and not knowing what comes next. We all carry those fears, even the strongest among us, especially the strongest, because fear ironically grows in silence. The more you avoid it, the bigger it becomes. The more you pretend it's not there, the deeper its roots go. So if you're serious about reinventing yourself, if you truly want to live differently, you have to be willing to look your fear in the eye, not to destroy it, but to understand it. Because fear is not your enemy, it's your signal. It shows you where your growth lies. Think about it. The biggest breakthroughs in your life didn't come when you felt safe. They came when you leaned into discomfort, when you walked into the unknown with shaking hands and a hopeful heart. That's courage, not the absence of fear, but the refusal to let fear decide who you become. So how do you start facing those fears? First, name them, not vaguely. Be specific. Write them down. Say them out loud. I'm afraid of failing at this new job. I'm afraid no one will ever love me for who I really am. I'm afraid of becoming like my parents. Whatever it is, own it, because you cannot conquer what you won't confront. Next, trace it back. Where did that fear begin? Was it a comment someone made? A moment that scarred you? A failure you never processed? You might be surprised how often the fear that controls your present was born in a moment long forgotten. And once you see that, it begins to lose its grip. Now ask yourself, what is this fear protecting me from? Because believe it or not, every fear is trying to keep you safe. Safe from pain, safe from embarrassment,